Hey everyone, it's Michael Kikle. I hope you're doing well today, and I have a video here to talk about Turbo, a Power Rangers movie from 1997. It's almost an hour and 40 minutes long, and I have a DVD copy here that I picked up. Now, as many of you know, I've been reviewing the Power Rangers stuff. I decided to take a couple of months break during the end of December and throughout January, catch up on some other shows and stuff. I'm almost finished with Twilight Zone. I'm kind of watching a disc of that, a disc of Power Rangers Turbo right now, the show. And I wanted to go ahead and get back in the mojo of watching Power Rangers, and maybe not heavily. Like, I don't think you're going to see a new series or season review every month or every couple of weeks. It's not going to be like that, but I'm working through the stack over time. But I didn't want you guys to think I just kind of quit making videos for you and stuff about this subject. Matter of fact, I'm more excited now that I'm getting to stuff like Turbo that I never got to see. I've never seen an episode of Turbo until I started watching it this time around. And this movie here, I don't know if I already mentioned this in this attempt to record, but I actually saw Turbo, the movie, in the theaters back in '97. And one of the things I remember is I loved it. But you're a kid. You know, I would have been very, very young, like 4, something like that, maybe 3. And I remember leaving the theater with this, it was a clear version, it was a very small, like 3 or 4 inch tall figure of the Megazord that was kind of see-through and clear, and it had like maybe pieces of cardboard inside of it or paper that were colored to look like, you know, the different Rangers' parts, like the arm might belong to the Blue Ranger, for example. And I remember there were things that were cool about it to me, but I remember this look on my dad's face as we left the theater, and just this absenteeism, you know, that I began to hear more and more about the older I got, and I would hear people like Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns and other people I knew talk about having to go to the theater to see Barney the movie with their kids back in the day, and how it rotted their brain in half, you know what I mean? And then I tried to watch this again when I got this DVD copy, probably about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and man, it sucked. But I hadn't seen Power Rangers stuff in so long at that point, right around my early 20s when I started rewatching Mighty Morphin and stuff. I threw in the original film, I threw in this movie, and both were pretty rough at the time. But after going through Mighty Morphin, going through Zeo, watching these two movies, I gotta tell you, I had a really good time just kind of sitting and watching something so mindless but kind of has messages here and there. I'm not going to get too much into my thoughts about the Turbo TV show so far. I'm only about maybe 6 or 7 episodes in. I'm almost a full disc into the show so far. Which, by the way, are even shorter episodes, which is very strange. Not by much, but a couple of minutes or so. So anyway, I guess I'll finally get to talking about the movie here. Thank you for hanging with me. Turbo, a Power Rangers movie, barely has Power Rangers in it until, like, I think about 50 minutes in, 40 minutes in, something like that is when they finally get their new, like, Zords, which are car-themed this time around. The new suits and all of that, which are fucking cool, dude. The Zeo costumes are basically not used at all. There's one scene in the early part of the film when somebody has to transform to save themselves. I don't want to spoil that for you too much, but they barely get saved, and it's like a flash of the particular costume of this person, and then it's gone. And you literally do not have a Power Ranger, aside from our cast members, the humans. You don't have a costume in the movie until like 40 or 50 minutes in. That's how bizarre the film is. And by the way, right now it's sitting at a 3.7 out of 10 on IMDb, which personally I get, because there's a big lack of Rangers in this very TV show with a bigger budget episode feel to this movie. I think people rating it so low are pissed off because there's not enough Power Rangers and fight scenes with those Ranger costumes that are so colorful and cool in the movie, and I get that, because it feels like a big absentee from the film, and it should be there a lot more than it is. I'm assuming they had production issues and whatnot. I don't know. But basically, what you have for the plot of this movie, there's a new villain named Divatox, who, by the way, she is so fucking fine. I am shocked that we had this lingerie pirate lady as the villain of this kids movie. I mean, she has like her whole stomach and chest cleavage showing. They have her in like a push-up bra, and what the fuck? I'm not trying to be a pervert. When I talk about these things, I'm talking about more of the exploitative nature of these things being in a children's film. It's kind of out of place, to be honest with you. And that's coming from somebody who mainly doesn't like politics in kids' movies and stuff. Seeing this, it's like, holy shit, dude, she is fine, but why is this in a kids' film? But she is great, and I actually think the actress is really fun for that role. Not just hot, but fun. And she, like I said, has kind of a pirate theme going for her. She and her team, which, by the way, one of her teammates is like a dude that's like John Travolta Bubble Boy looking guy. There's another guy that looks like if a marble cracked in half and had like a piece of poop in it with red eyes. That's what this one guy looks like. And then there's this other guy who is fucking nightmare fuel. And I'm so glad I did not remember this guy. I don't know how I didn't remember him. But I'm so glad I didn't see the TV show when I got a little bit older around this time. I think it premiered the same couple of months after this movie premiered. There's this other crewmate that looks like Freddy fucking Krueger. If you took Freddy and like stretched his head out, and of course like Goldar and all of the previous villains that were more animatronic, he has an animatronic face, the eyes blink, the mouth opens, the top lip like moves up and down. He's fucking nightmare fuel. He is so scary, dude. I hate that guy. They have like a submarine and they come to the Earth in pursuit of this alien they've been trying to hunt down who's like a wizard. He looks like an Ewok. And the last time I watched this movie, all I remembered were these cool looking, colorful backpacks the Rangers had as they looked for this guy out in the woods or the jungle of the Earth or whatever. And then I remembered this guy with the purple and blonde beard head thing. Basically, Divatox took his wife and child captive. And he doesn't speak English. He literally just gurgles and shit. He has to be a reference to Ewoks from Star Wars. There's no way he's not. They're in pursuit of him because he's a wizard, and apparently Divatox wants to resurrect, I think she said her husband or something, but some kind of demonic monster of some sort. And she has to use him and his powers to get through this, like, dimension thing, I think is what she said, to get there. But, like, you can't just take his wand and use it. It's kind of like you have to have the wizard do it, you know? And he comes to Earth fleeing to try to get help from the Power Rangers. And, again, this is in the era where they're still Zeo Rangers, you know? And the funniest shit happens. There's supposed to be like a martial arts competition, right? Rocky tries to show off at one point. He misses a roundhouse kick. He falls out of the fucking ring and breaks his back and neck. I swear to God, it happens. I laughed my ass off. And that's coming from somebody who's kind of a Rocky apologist. You know, I like Rocky, okay? My wife is right about him looking like Justin Bieber, like I talked about in the reviews I did for the previous seasons. But I like Rocky overall. Not the greatest actor, but he seems like a nice guy. I bet he's a really friendly person in real life. But he's down for the count, so we have no Blue Ranger now. And the Rangers, again, like 50 minutes into the film, after they rescue this Ewok wizard, Ewazard? I don't know what to call him. They rescue him, try to protect him, and eventually Zordon and Alpha 5 have to give them new powers, which are like car-themed, like I said, as the title of the film hints at, Turbo. And these cars are fucking rad. Now, the Red Ranger, Tommy, obviously, he has like a supercar. But like the rest of them have like Jeeps and trucks and stuff. Those are sick. And I like the pirate theme to the season. Like, the submarine thing is cool. The underwater stuff is cool with Divatox, the villain. And again, her band of bad guys, maybe they're not as cool as, like, obviously Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa or any of their gang. She's not as cool as, you know, even the Clock King or whatever his name was from Zeo, which I thought was a really cool design for bad guys. That whole theme of that show. But I gotta tell you, I like Divatox and her like bad guys. I think they're kind of cool what they're doing there. But there's also like a pirate ship that looks like a ghost ship at one point in the story the Power Rangers have to find. But Zordon not only gave them new powers, he also gave them a new Blue Ranger, because apparently there was some kind of conversation between Rocky and Zordon at some point off screen where he agrees to give up his powers. And there was a kid that witnessed that the Rangers were talking in a group when they thought they were by themselves, like they usually run off the scene to talk about, what do you need, Zordon? Like on the TV show and stuff. This kid named Justin overhears them. And when I was a kid, I thought this was such a cool idea that you could have a kid become a Power Ranger, because it felt like you as a child were going to be a Power Ranger someday. It was a really cool idea. I know people hate on Justin. I would bet on it already. And I'm watching Turbo. I don't hate the kid. I think he's actually pretty fun. They give him some okay stuff to do. He's like kind of like Billy, like he's a brainchild, They call him an egghead, like the bad kids do. Justin gets to become the Blue Ranger. But what's weird about it is that when he transforms into the Blue Ranger, when he morphs, whatever, his body also grows into a full-ass adult so that they can still use, like, the overseas footage from Super Sentai. I think that's fucking hilarious. But when I was a kid, I thought it was really cool. As an adult, if I had seen this film for the first time, like my dad's face showed back in the day, I'd probably want to eat a Colt 45, to be honest with you, because of how the transformations in the movie and in the show are not very good. They're very CGI with the helmets and stuff, but they're low-budget films and shows. Like, this was not a massively budgeted movie, even for its time with movies like Speed coming out. You know what I mean? So basically, the Power Rangers get new powers. They try to save the wizard, Ewazard, whatever, and try to stop Divatox. That's all you need to know for plot for this. But it's really about how is it executed. Well, it's a little slow. All the jungle stuff, wandering around in the woods and stuff with like Kat and Tommy. Of course, I love these characters. I really do. I really like all of these different actors and actresses, like Rocky. Again, Kat is hot as hell. I like all of them. But I just wish we could have done more with them. It was an interesting introduction to the show, and unlike Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, Turbo was actually part of Turbo. Like, you watch the film, and you can skip it if you want, and you can start the show if you just have the seasons laying around, or if Netflix, for example, if they happen to have all the Power Rangers and they don't have this movie, you're not really missing much. They recap a bunch of clips in the first episode of Turbo's TV show. But this is incorporated in, unlike Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie, like I said, where it's ignored entirely. Like, there's no way it could happen. With the new costumes they had for the film and all of that. It can't exist in that canon, but I don't really give a shit. It's a children's show about martial arts superheroes. So anyway, overall, I like the look of most things. I think the shots, there is mostly terrible CGI, specifically at the beginning when the Ewok wizard comes to the Earth, and like they show like basically like if a meteorite was coming through the atmosphere on fire and stuff, coming through clouds and everything. That's awful. The sets are not very great when it comes to like fighting in the volcano and stuff at the end of the movie. That in concept, and what I just told you, if you've never heard about Power Rangers fighting in a volcano, that should sound and be awesome. Not really. Not really in the movie. There's plenty of times in this big budget movie where, like in the martial arts fights, that people are clearly missing kicks and stuff, but bad guys are flying across the room from something not even hitting them. It's supposed to look like it hit them, but it absolutely did not. And you see that a lot in the later seasons of Mighty Morphin, and you see it in Zeo sometimes too. The fights here are easily worse than in Zeo and Mighty Morphin. Very much so. And Zeo was a little bit of a step down when it came to Mighty Morphin's fights. But this is a big step down, in my personal opinion. The movie is not very good. I don't know what I would say just yet about whether this movie is better than the TV show or vice versa. I think right now, not even a full disc into the show, I think I like Turbo more than this movie. But that could very well change, so don't hold me to it. So anyway, that's really all I have to say about Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. It's a fucking mess, but I mean, it's Power Rangers. Who gives a shit if it's a mess? I just want cool action, cool fights, cool costumes, which the new costumes I didn't get to talk about, they look really nice. For people who don't like the Zeo kind of Egyptian-style costumes, I think you'll like these costumes a lot more. They look really good, especially in the show where they're using Super Sentai footage and how great those costumes look, despite my love for the Zeo costumes. The Turbo costumes for a long time as a kid, even though I only saw this film once, I don't think my parents or at least my dad ever allowed me to own this VHS tape because of how much he hated this movie. You could tell it. He's never said it to me in my entire 30 years of life, but I bet he did because I was a kid and I saw his face. But anyway, I love these costumes. I think they're really cool. I think people, obviously, like Jason David Frank, give a decent performance. Most of our cast does. It's interesting the new directions they wanted to go for this movie, and I like those directions to some extent. It's not perfect, and I wish we had more Rangers. I think that's the biggest sin about this film, is not having enough Ranger stuff and not enough action. There's too much walking around and talking, but at least it's a kid's film version of walking around and talking. It would have been boring as a kid, but hey, I saw this as a kid, a very young kid for that age demographic for this movie, and I loved it as a kid, the one time I saw it. I feel like if I saw this again as a teenager or even a preteen, I would have hated it, just like I did with Mighty Morphin's movie. So, anyway, not a great big film. It's pretty bad. And I hate to say that because I love Power Rangers, but this is on the same par in some respects as Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. But that film's a little bit better than this, obviously, in my opinion. There's a couple of familiar faces that show up in here. And I'm not talking about like just regular celebrities. I'm talking about some Power Rangers characters that show up in here. And I loved that. I loved seeing those particular things. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll save the surprise for you. But that was really nice. I enjoyed that a lot. So check out the film if you haven't seen it before and you love Power Rangers. It's worth at least one watch, but just know it's more like watching a Power Rangers episode, a bad couple of episodes, a three-parter where it's this long, you know? So just expect that if you haven't seen it before. It's not great. Turbo apparently has always had a bad reputation about being an awful movie. Again, I didn't know that. I didn't know the show apparently is a horrible, horrible show, season, whatever. I've never seen it. So it is what it is. But anyway, God willing, stick around and I'll try to get a review together for the TV season at some point. I don't know if it'll happen anytime soon. Like I said, I'm taking my very sweet time with it, trying to take little notes here and there. There's a lot of things they changed up from Mighty Morphin and Zeo going into Turbo, so not just with this movie. There's a lot of big stuff, so I'll talk about that when I get to those reviews at some point. But anyway, in the meantime, thank you all for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Hopefully you're enjoying the Power Rangers reviews and some of the manga stuff I've been putting out. God bless you guys. Have a good one. Let me know what you think about this film and Turbo as a season without spoiling anything. Thank you all. God bless you again. Goodbye.